This is a CBS News Special Report. I'm Norah O'Donnell in Tel Aviv, where we heard air raid sirens throughout the afternoon here, and Israel is launching near constant airstrikes into Gaza, targeting Hamas and what the Israeli military calls terror nests. We are now in day 4 of this war. President Biden is about to address the nation from the White House. You are looking at live pictures there. We also have some breaking news from here in Israel with CBS's Holly Williams, who just got back from southern Israel near the border, and we are learning more about some of these massacres at the kibbutzim. What have we heard?
That's right, Nora. Just in the last hour, Israel's body retrieval group confirmed to CBS News that they have discovered beheaded babies and children in the Kfar Aza kibbutz in southern Israel. Some of those small farming communities were the worst hit by Hamas militants, and we are still now discovering the details.
These are some of the most chilling things that we have heard today. We have been talking to people who lived in these kibbutzim, including family members I spoke with yesterday, including one where more than 100 people were killed. I know this will be part of your reporting tonight on the CBS Evening News. Holly, thank you. Also want to update everyone because the president and the vice president, along with the entire national security team, has been huddled in the Situation Room. We're told that the president and the vice president got off the phone not long ago with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to reiterate their support. We've gotten pictures from inside the Situation Room, all kinds of defense intelligence apparatus being engaged to help the Israeli government. We have also learned at least 11 Americans among the dead. Let's now listen to the President of the United States.
You know, there are moments in this life, and I mean this literally, when the pure, unadulterated evil is unleashed on this world. The people of Israel lived through one such moment this weekend. The bloody hands of the terrorist organization Hamas, a group whose stated purpose for being is to kill Jews. This was an act of sheer evil. More than 1,000 civilians slaughtered, not just killed, slaughtered in Israel. Among them, at least 14 American citizens killed. Parents butchered, using their bodies to try to protect their children. Stomach-turning reports of babies being killed. Entire families slain. Young people massacred while attending a musical festival to celebrate peace. To celebrate peace. Women raped, assaulted, paraded as trophies. Families hid their fear for hours and hours, desperately trying to keep their children quiet to avoid drawing attention. And thousands of wounded, alive but carrying with them the bullet holes and the shrapnel wounds and the memory of what they endured. You all know these traumas never go away. There's still so many families desperately waiting to hear the fate of their loved ones, not knowing if they're alive or dead or hostages. Infants in their mother's arms, grandparents in wheelchairs, Holocaust survivors abducted and held hostage. Hostages whom Hamas has now threatened to execute in violation of every code of human morality. It's abhorrent. The brutality of Hamas, these bloodthirstiness brings to mind the worst rampages of ISIS. This is terrorism. But sadly, for the Jewish people, it's not new. This attack has brought to the surface painful memories and the scars left by a millennia of anti-Semitism and genocide of the Jewish people. So in this moment, we must be crystal clear. We stand with Israel. We stand with Israel. And we will make sure Israel has what it needs to take care of its citizens, defend itself, and respond to this attack. There's no justification for terrorism. There's no excuse. Hamas does not stand for the Palestinian people's right to dignity and self-determination. Its stated purpose is the annihilation of the State of Israel and the murder of Jewish people. They use Palestinian civilians as human shields. Hamas offers nothing but terror and bloodshed with no regard to who pays the price. The loss of innocent life is heartbreaking. Like every nation in the world, Israel has the right to respond, indeed has a duty to respond to these vicious attacks. I just got off the phone with a third call with Prime Minister Netanyahu, and I told him, the United States experience what Israel is experiencing, our response would be swift, decisive, and overwhelming. We also discussed how democracies like Israel and the United States are stronger and more secure when we act according to the rule of law. Terrorists purposely target civilians, kill them. We uphold the laws of war, the law of war. It matters. There's a difference. Today, Americans across the country are praying for all those families that have been ripped apart. A lot of us know how it feels. It leaves a black hole in your chest when you lose family. Feeling like you're being sucked in. The anger, the pain, the sense of hopelessness. This is what they mean by a human tragedy, an atrocity on an appalling scale. But we're going to continue to stand united, supporting the people of Israel who are suffering unspeakable losses and opposing the hatred and violence of terrorism. My team has been in near constant communication with our Israeli partners and partners all across the region and the world from the moment this crisis began. We're surging additional military assistance, including ammunition and interceptors, to replenish Iron Dome. We're going to make sure that Israel does not run out of these critical assets to defend its cities and its citizens. My administration has consulted closely with Congress throughout this crisis. And when Congress returns, we're going to ask them to take urgent action to fund the national security requirements of our critical partners. This is not about party or politics. This is about the security of our world, the security of the United States of America. We now know that American citizens are among those being held by Hamas. I've directed my team to share intelligence and deploy additional experts from across the United States government to consult with and advise Israeli counterparts on hostage recovery efforts. Because as president, I have no higher priority than the safety of Americans being held hostage around the world. The United States has also enhanced our military force posture in the region to strengthen our deterrence. The Department of Defense has moved the USS Gerald R. Ford Carrier Strike Group to the Eastern Mediterranean and bolstered our fighter aircraft presence. And we stand ready to move in additional assets as needed. Let me say again, to any country, any organization, anyone thinking of taking advantage of this situation, I have one word: don't. Don't. Our hearts may be broken, but our resolve is clear. Yesterday, I also spoke with the leaders of France, Germany, Italy, and UK to discuss the latest developments with our European allies and coordinate our united response. This comes on top of days of steady engagement with partners across the region. We're also taking steps at home. In cities across the United States of America, police departments have stepped up security around centers of Jewish life. The Department of Homeland Security and the Federal Bureau of Investigation are working closely with state and local law enforcement and Jewish community partners to identify and disrupt any domestic threat that could emerge in connection with these horrific attacks. This is a moment for the United States to come together, to grieve with those who are mourning. Let's be real clear. There is no place for hate in America. Not against Jews, not against Muslims, not against anybody. We reject. What we reject is terrorism. We condemn the indiscriminate evil, just as we've always done. That's what America stands for. You know, just over 50 years ago, I was thinking about it this morning, talking to the Secretary of State, the Vice President in my office. Over 50 years ago, as a young senator, I visited Israel for the first time as a newly elected senator. And I had a long, long trip, a meeting with Golda Meir in her office just before the Yom Kippur War. And I guess she could see the consternation on my face as she described what was being faced, they were facing. We walked outside in that sort of hallway outside her office to have some photos. She looked at me all of a sudden and said, "Would you like to have a photograph?" And so I got up and followed her out. We were standing there silent, looking at the press. She could tell, I guess, I was concerned. She leaned over and whispered to me, she said, "Don't worry, Senator Biden. We have a secret rep in here in Israel." My word is what she said. We have no place else to go. We have no place else to go. For 75 years, Israel has stood as the ultimate guarantor of the security of Jewish people around the world, so that the atrocities of the past could never happen again. And let there be no doubt, the United States has Israel's back. We will make sure the Jewish and democratic state of Israel can defend itself today, tomorrow, as we always have. It's as simple as that. These atrocities have been sickening. We're with Israel. Let's make no mistake. Thank you.
Mr. President, what was your reaction?
And there you have it, the President of the United States stating clearly that the United States stands behind Israel and denouncing the acts of terror as sheer evil, going into specifics about the number of civilians who have been slaughtered, in his words, babies, women raped and paraded, in the president's words. He is giving some wide latitude to the Israeli government to strike back at Hamas, but is trying to prevent civilian casualties. I want to bring in our senior foreign correspondent, Holly Williams, who is also with me here in Tel Aviv. The president also saying there are now 14 Americans among the dead, and there are a number of American hostages, but he did not say how many. How does this complicate that planned invasion of Gaza?
That's news, isn't it, Nora? Americans amongst the hostages. Hamas is using those hostages to try and blackmail Israel, saying that they won't negotiate a prisoner swap until the Israeli strike stop, even threatening to execute one of those hostages every time that Israel bombs Palestinian civilians with no warning. This is really a kind of blackmail that Hamas is using. Israel is acting at this point as if it's not handcuffed.
Including women,
but I think the reality is that this is a political problem for Israel, because on the one hand, they want and need to punish Hamas, but on the other hand, the family members of every single one of those hostages will be demanding that Israel's government brings their loved ones home safe.
And how does that carry itself out? We know that the Israeli Defense Forces have already called up 360,000 reserve forces. Some of those reservists are coming from America here to help Israel fight. There are already 35 battalions on the border with Gaza. What happens? How are they softening targets now?
Yeah, Israel is clearly going on the offensive. They're hammering the Gaza Strip with airstrikes. A ground invasion is expected in the days to come. As I said, Israel's acting as if the hostages don't impact that. But I spoke to a former Israeli intelligence officer just a few days ago who said the hostages have a massive impact, and he doesn't know how the Israeli government is going to deal with that.
Holly Williams, I know you have been reporting on the southern border and will continue what you have learned tonight on the CBS Evening News. Thank you very much. I also want to bring in our senior White House correspondent, Weijia Jiang. And Weijia, I know the president has been working the phones since this conflict began 4 days ago. This is a hurried diplomatic effort.
It is, Nora, and he actually had a phone call yesterday with big Western allies, France, Germany, the UK, and Italy, that resulted in a joint statement because the issue here is not only supporting Israel, but he wants to send the message of deterrence to any potential bad actors who want to exploit this situation, that there is a coordinated effort to stand beside Israel and make sure it has everything it needs to defend itself. It's also notable, Nora, that the president made this speech fresh off that meeting in the Situation Room. And we spotted one national security advisor who is an expert in hostage affairs. And as you and Holly were talking about, he just made news that the administration has confirmed that Americans are among the hostages that Hamas has taken. We also know that the administration has offered support, has offered to put forth hostage negotiators and members of the intelligence community to aid in this effort. But I have to tell you, Nora, there is a frustration here because they say we are relying on the families who are telling us that their loved ones are not there. We don't know how many people are missing, and we certainly at this point do not know how to track and find them. But they have vowed to do everything they can to try to reconnect those hostages, especially Americans. Nora?
Weijia Jiang at the White House, thank you. Also want to bring in our chief Washington correspondent, Major Garrett. And Major, let's talk about how the United States is assisting the Israelis. The president mentioning this U.S. strike carrier group, the USS Ford, on its way here. There's also talk at the Pentagon about sending another aircraft carrier, of course, deploying additional munitions and help to resupply the Iron Dome.
Right.
This is, you could see, an all-hands-on-deck process.
Yes, the president made clear he will move whatever U.S. assets militarily make sense to reinforce the Israelis as they continue this war. That's Benjamin Netanyahu's word against Hamas in Gaza. He also talked, the president did, about asking Congress for assistance. But Congress is disorganized. The House of Representatives isn't even functioning right now, Nora. So the Pentagon and the administration will use whatever available resources it has under law now. But until the House organizes itself, it is not a co-legislative partner in providing future needs for the United States to assist Israel. That is a huge concern here in America. One other thing. What's the relationship between Benjamin Netanyahu and President Biden? Well, it lasts decades, started in the early 80s when Biden was a young senator and Benjamin Netanyahu was an upcoming aide within the Israeli embassy here in Washington. They know each other well. There have been strains in this relationship periodically, but forged in fire they are now. As the president made clear, this is a different context. Barbarity of this magnitude, the president said, cannot be ignored and will be dealt with, first by Israel and also collaboratively by the United States.
Major Garrett in Washington, along with Weijia Jiang at the White House, and Holly Williams here in Tel Aviv. And thanks to our correspondents and crews around the world. Our coverage will continue on CBS News, streaming your local news. And tonight we will have a full wrap-up from Israel on the CBS Evening News. This has been a CBS News Special Report. I'm Norah O'Donnell in Tel Aviv.